unwavering and unwilling to abide hindrance or objection. Although Punch described Bell as a scholar, his words equally apply to his intelligence war against Nazism and his formulation of a plan for enduring post-war peace that can continue to guide us today. From sounding the first anti-Nazi warnings to laying the foundations for the Marshall Plan, Bell is history's greatest spy. Of course, there are other greats, including the Hungarian Armin van Bury, the Russian Sidney Reilly, and the Canadian William Stevenson. The greatest may end up being a tie, but I'm sure there are none greater than A12. This is a work of nonfiction, and everything in quotes has been sourced from the historical record. I conducted much of the research among unpublished papers held in archives in Canada, Germany, and the UK. The most important of these is the Winthrop Pickard Bell Fonds at Mount Allison University in rural Sackville, New Brunswick. Bell's papers were held under restriction until 2012, and I was the first visiting researcher allowed unrestricted access. Also valuable were Prime Minister David Lloyd George's papers at the Parliamentary Archives, London, Sir James Headlam Morley's papers at Churchill College, Cambridge University, the Versailles Peace Treaty papers at the National Archives in Richmond, England, the Niedersächsische Staats- und Universitätsbibliothek in Göttingen, Germany, and the archives at King's College, London. Bell's reports, diaries, and letters are quoted verbatim, subject to minor edits, as 1919 telegraphic reports, for instance, left off words for the sake of economy. I have provided these corrections without brackets for the sake of readability. Bell's reports are sometimes given as direct speech. He did not, of course, record every glance out the window, smile, or arched eyebrow, but I have included details like these when it was natural for the situation. Bell's early typewriters lacked the ability to write in italics, so he used underlines. In later work, he used italics. For the sake of consistency, I have updated the underlines to italics. Despite our shared surname, Winthrop and I are not known relations. Prologue. On Sunday, March 19, 1939, Winthrop Bell opened his basement vault and stepped inside, through an imposing green steel door designed for a bank. He lifted a file holding copies of still classified espionage reports he had written for the British Secret Intelligence Service 20 years earlier. He knew how to manage the risk. Sealed behind a massive lock, the papers were safe from thieves and Gestapo spies. In his hand were London's first warnings about the Nazis, written during his mission to Berlin. He locked the vault behind him and returned to his basement study. Because he had built the house on land sloping down to the harbor, the back wall was at ground level, with 2 sunny windows and a door opening onto the garden. He looked out one window and took in a commanding view of Back Harbor in Chester, Nova Scotia. Bell was half a world away from the Nazis' violent, racist Berlin. 20 years earlier, the Secret Intelligence Service, better known as MI6, had sent him on a classified mission to that dangerous city, teeming with democratic heroes and terroristic villains. His assignment was to gather intelligence about the situation in the German capital, where people were still licking their wounds after their defeat in the First World War. Gradually, he had gathered threads of evidence, hints from sources, and interviews with aristocrats, politicians, bureaucrats, military officers, soldiers, scientists, and ordinary citizens. Woven together, he revealed a secret group with a dangerous plot. Now, 20 years later, the terrorists controlled Germany. Bell's democratic sources had been murdered, exiled, or were working underground. In 1919, some powerful British bureaucrats had been incredulous of Bell's warning. The Nazis were at the time attacking Jews from the shadows and weren't perceived as a threat. Officials decided to bury Bell's report under a restrictive top-secret classification, rather than release it to the public, as he had hoped. 2 decades later, he still kept a copy in his vault. The other copy was stored in the Foreign Office's secret library. By the spring of 1939, the Nazis had grown strong enough.